Well, did you guys know the average amount of credit card debt for an American is $6,500? The average amount of credit card debt for an American, $6,500. Well, did you guys know the average amount? That's the average, which means there's a lot of credit card debt for an American. Above the average, right? $6,500. So the average amount. That's a lot. There is over $1 trillion. That's a lot of credit card debt. That's the average, which means there's a lot of people $1 trillion that are above the average. And actually, so you would think it's the young, there is over folks who have the most credit card debt. It's actually not true. Of credit card debt. Baby boomers and Gen Xers actually have the highest amount of credit card debt. And actually, in America, you would think it's the young, irresponsible folks who have the most credit card debt. It's actually not true. In America, baby boomers and Gen Xers actually have the highest amount of credit card amounts of debt. America. That's just become the new normal. Interesting. And I do mean unnecessary debt, right? Unfortunately, it's normal in America that you know when you go buy a house really who has unnecessary amounts. So sometimes you have to. That's just become the new normal, right? And I do mean unnecessary debt, right? There is life right now. Debt. There is a lot of debt when you go buy a house who has $150,000. Let's be honest. It's sometimes you have to right to take out. Unfortunately, in America, it's normal to just kind of part of just kind of buy. But there is a lot of debt that I want that big screen TV. That is just, or I want that new iPhone, and I don't have the money right now. Unfortunately, in America, it's normal to debt for a little while. Just kind of buy later. Whatever about it later, right? I want that. That's kind of standard procedure. iPhone, and I don't have the money right now. But hey, no big deal. And there's other things in our culture, in our country that I'll pay it off later. I'll worry about it later, right? That's kind of Christian standard procedure gives only 2.5% of their income. And there's other things in our culture, in our country, challenges us to probably think bigger than that. The average Christian, the average American Christian gives only 2.5% of their income. Keep that. And keep in mind that in the Great Depression, us to probably think bigger than that, actually higher. But the average American Christian gives only 2.5% of their income. So somehow in our culture, we've got to keep in mind that in the Great Depression and flourishing, the average was much more higher. In the Great Depression, the average amount of giving for a Christian was 3.3%. So it shows you somehow in our culture we've gotten to a place where we are thriving in our culture, flourishing, and in our hearts, much more. We have more than we've ever had before. Giving less, and yet we're holding more back from God. So it shows you the kind of bad habits we've created in our culture. And additionally, meanwhile, we have the average American spends about 7% of their income on entertainment. So your cable bill, your Netflix bill, going to and additionally, meanwhile, the average American spends about 7% of their income on entertainment, maybe that you don't need. So your cable bill, at least 7%. Actually, when you include clothing, that's unnecessary. It's probably closer to 10%. Going to concerts that the average American spends buying that pair of shoes, maybe that you don't entertaining themselves essentially. So we give 7 to 10%. Actually, when you include clothing, just unnecessary spending on ourselves, and we can only give 2.5% back to the Lord. Just entertaining themselves essentially. And additionally, so we give 7 to 10% troubling stats towards just they say right now only about 5% of Christians give 2.5% actually tithe in the sense of traditional tithing the 10%. Only 5%. And additionally, and there's more. On the other end of that spectrum, they say right now only about 5% of Christians actually tithe in the sense of traditional tithing. Every churchgoer, 5%. 37% of churchgoers don't give on the other end of that spectrum, 37%, they say 37%, so more than 1/3 of every churchgoer, guys, 37% of churchgoers don't give anything broke back at all. They don't having a lot of unnecessary debt is normal, and not giving back to the Lord is also normal, even unfortunately being broke of Christ. Having a lot of unnecessary debt is normal, right? And not giving back to the Lord, like the way that the Bible challenges us to live, followers of Christ. Does that add up to you? It doesn't add up to me. That's the normal. Does that sound right? Does that sound? Are Christ followers supposed to be the way that the Bible challenges us to live? Supposed to just throw money at whatever they want and worry about it? It doesn't add up to me that that's the normal Are Christ followers supposed to spend more money on selfish desires than on helping others? Throw money at whatever they want and worry about it Christ 10 years later? Are Christ followers supposed to spend more money on selfish desires than on helping others? The way the Bible tells us to live. So we're going to go through a series that Christ preached to us. We're calling "Be Weird." Okay, we're going through this series with Harvester Christian Church. We're going through the That's not the way the Bible tells us to live. So we're going to go through a series. We're challenging you guys to think about what is normal, weird, okay? We're going versus what does God actually call us to do? Because Christ actually very consistently calls His followers. We're challenging you guys to think about what is normal, the opposite versus what does God actually call us to do, the rest of culture. Because Christ actually very consistently calls His followers love your enemy. Right, that's one of the most basic ones. The opposite, and we hear it, the rest of society, don't always let it and the rest of culture its way to our heart. But it is very countercultural. He says things like, "Actually, love your enemy." Take the person that hates you. That's one of the most basic ones. And we hear it, but ill against you, make its way to our heart. But it is very countercultural, right? That's one way. Jesus is take the person that hates you to be weird and not to do what the rest of the world is doing. He also says things like, pray for those who persecute you. So not only are you to treat them with love, Jesus is always challenging His followers, but even when you're not around them, and not to do what the rest of the world is doing. He also says things like, pray for those who persecute you. So not only are you to treat them with love to their face, right? A lot of people can, but even when you're not around that they love their enemy, you have to love them in front of them. But to actually pray for them in private, sincerely, that's a pretty radical love them in your heart, right? Which is even more countercultural, right? A lot of people like if you want to save your life, they love their enemy when they're in front of them. You actually have to first pray for your life. Private. That's which, of course, is idea, totally countercultural, right? That I would give up. Jesus says other things like, if you want to save your life, not make myself. You actually have to first lose your life first, but that I would put something else first. Which, of course, is totally countercultural, right? That I would give up anything that I want. That I would, again, not make myself right and my own desires and needs first, but that I would put something Jesus also says, in my kingdom, the first shall be last, and the last that is shall be first. Very counter-radical idea, isn't it? That if you want to be great in God's kingdom, Jesus also says, what you actually have to do in my kingdom, the first shall be last, and the last serve others shall be first. It's a radical idea, isn't it? That if you want to be great in God's kingdom, what you actually as a general rule, Christians have accepted this, right? We have accepted these kind of paradoxes that Jesus kind of creates, and this fact that as a Christ follower, we have to stand out from the rest of the world. So as a general rule, Christians have accepted this, right? We have accepted these kind of paradoxes that we've accepted that. But for some reason, when it comes to that, as a Christ follower, we have to stand out from the rest of the world. We have to do things differently, right? We can't have not really accepted that. We've accepted that. Money, but for some reason, when it comes to money, I'm going to keep that to myself. A very large percent of us treat money the same way that the rest of the world does. We want to hold on to it. With our money, we're like, we want to spend it on ourselves. I'm going to keep that to myself. And so again, we are going to challenge you guys over the next month. Treat money the same way that the rest of the world does. Hold on to different habits. We want to spend it on ourselves. Than the habits that your friends. And so again, we are going to challenge you guys over the next different months. Do things different. Start spending your money bizarre. Create different habits. We're going to challenge you guys to be than the habits that and so to do this, your family or your coworkers we have to change the very way that we do things different. Start spending your money in a Christ-like way that we see what money is. So to do this, and the we have to change the very way that we look at money. Because the problem is, that's where most of us view money as a means to get things that we see, right? Or that what money is. That's the purpose that money serves in our lives. That it serves in our life. Change that a little bit. Because the problem is, most of us view money as a means to get things that we want. So let's look at a few things that the Bible does say about how we can look at money through a biblical lens. Realize that's not actually what the Bible says. How can we so let's look at a few things that the Bible does say about how we can look at money through a biblical lens. Is that when it comes to money, our heart How can we our heart has start looking at money through a biblical lens? We're not going to make good financial, biblical financial decisions if our heart, when it comes to money, our heart. In Jeremiah chapter 17, it says this: the heart is deceitful. We're not going to make good financial, biblical financial decisions if our heart is not in the right place. Jeremiah chapter 17, it says this: the heart is deceitful and beyond cure. Above, the Bible makes it very clear that beyond, because we are sinners, who can understand it? Our vision Jeremiah says that our hearts, we don't see the world the way that we're supposed to see it. The Bible makes it very clear that because we are the lines between right and wrong, our vision is blurred in our minds. We don't see the world. We just can't see clearly all the time, and as a result, our hearts the lines between right and wrong, something that feels good in my heart, blurred in our minds. We can't. We just can't see clearly all the time, and as a result, our hearts are not always in the right place. Sometimes something that feels good in my heart, between right and wrong, sometimes actually the heart is deceitful above all because I'm a sinner. And I'm fallen. And this is why Jesus talks a lot about our hearts and how it relates to money. Jesus talks between right and wrong sometimes. A lot. And he talks about our hearts as they relate to money. This is what he says in Matthew chapter 6. And this is why Jesus talks a lot about our hearts and how it relates to money. He says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, and he talks about where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves as they relate to money. This is what he says in Matthew chapter 6. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. On earth. And then he says this: for where your treasure is, and where thieves break in and steal, there your heart. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where your treasure is, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. And then he says this: Jesus says, for where your treasure is, you guys. I know your hearts will also be. Do not always go after the right things. There your heart will also be. He says, you often seek the wrong things. So Jesus says, hey, I know you guys. Material possessions. I know your heart's comfort. Do not always go after the right thing. Yourself. And we think that material possessions and money are going to make us happy. But Jesus says, I know you think it's going to make you happy, but it's not going to make you happy. These things fade away. You seek to serve anything you can get with money. And we think that material possessions and money are going to make us happy. But Jesus says, I know you think it's going to make you happy, but it's not going to make you happy. These things fade away. Pursuing those anything you can get with money, heavenly things, is something that's going to fade away. It's not going to bring you fulfillment in the end like you think it will. And so we have to long for instead of pursuing those things, heavenly things. Then in Matthew chapter 15, Jesus talks about how sometimes we can be a bit hypocritical in the way we have to long for Jesus things is talking to that don't fade Pharisees away, and things. Then in Matthew chapter from Isaiah, he says these people honor me with their lips. We can be a bit, but their hearts are far from me. In the way we approach these things, Jesus is talking to, but their hearts are far from me. He's talking about the passage from Isaiah. He says these people honor me with their lips. He could say the same thing, but their hearts are far from me. People in churches, they honor me with their lips, that we service God with our lips. We honor Him with our lips, but our hearts certainly. He could say the same thing about many, and this often manifests itself in the area of service God with our lips. We honor Him with our lips because it's very easy as a churchgoer to honor God with our lips, to do all the right often things, manifests itself, and do everything that other people see. Maybe more than any other can do right. We may even because it's very easy in our life as a churchgoer, but to honor God with our lips, to do all the right things, right, and do everything that other people see in the church that know how much we can do right. We may even get rid of a lot of sin in our life from God. But the thing in the thing about money is honor God with my lips. I can go to church, I can do ministry, I can do all these things, but in my heart, I haven't given that part of my heart away from God. And unfortunately, many of us, I can honor God with my lips. I can go to church, I can do ministry, I can do all these things, but in my heart, we claim to give our lives that area of my heart to the Lord. And unfortunately, many of us, we say, I'm going to give my life to you, but not my money. Right? We claim to give our lives. Many of us do that. Jesus also says in Matthew chapter 19, I give my life to you. It says, then Jesus said to his disciples, truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich, many of us do that, to enter the kingdom of heaven. Jesus also says in Matthew chapter 19, in verse 23, to go through the eye of a needle. Then Jesus said to his disciples, truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich. It's very difficult for a rich person to get into the kingdom. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. He knows. So Jesus says it's very difficult for a rich person to get into the kingdom. To other people. Why is that? In our hearts, because He knows one area how big of a temptation money is for us. He knows. Hold on to it. We can look so good on the outside, which is why it's hard for people with money to get into the kingdom. In our hearts, the more money you have, the more you want to hold on to it, give over to the Lord, and the more you want to spend it on things you don't need, and the more you want to be selfish. That's what we do. Which is why it's hard for people with money to get into the kingdom, because the more money you have, to learn how to have a change. The more you want to hold on to it, you have to learn how to have a change. And the more you want to spend it on things you don't need, and the more you want to be selfish with it. That's why our finances so close to our heart and making it a treasure. And so we have to learn how to have a change of heart. These things. We have to learn how to have a start pursuing. We have to stop like holding our finances so close to our heart and making it a treasure. We have to stop pursuing and love these things and start pursuing honor and service. These are the kinds of things we need to be treasuring, pursuing righteousness. We need to be more worried about selflessness, becoming a selfless person, a loving person, rather than honor and service. These are the kinds of things we need to be treasuring, pursuing. We need to be more worried about. Another thing we see is a selfless person that the Bible says about money. The first is that we have to have a change of heart. The second is that God has to be in first place. God has to be in first place. Another thing we see is that the Bible says about money. The first is that we have to have a change of heart. The second is that God has to be in first place. Again, the Bible is very God has to be in first place. There cannot be anything else in our life in this area. God has to be priority, first place, and second and third place that are pleasing to the Lord. Again, Jesus knows money is a huge area of weakness. He says in Matthew 6, verse 24, in this area, God has to be. No one can serve two masters, and second and third place. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. He says in Matthew 6, you cannot serve both God and money. No one can serve two masters. Pretty black and white. You cannot serve both God and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. That has taken control of both God and money. You cannot serve Christ right there if that is the case. Pretty black and white. You cannot serve both God and money. If money and finances have become something in your life that has taken control, if you want to serve Christ properly, you cannot serve Christ properly. He knows that we make money our master. You have to be able to let go of really really intense and dramatic to say it that way, but it's the truth. We make money our master. He knows that we make money go to work, right, every day, and of course we have to. Many of us we get jobs that we don't even like. Dramatic to say it that way, just because it's going to make us more money because we have to make more money because we have to make ends meet. Go to work, to save right, every day. Retirement, of course we have to, but many of us in a lot of ways we get jobs that we don't even like. Our whole lives just because it's going to make us more money because we have to make more money because we have to make ends meet and we have to save up for retirement and we have to do all these things. But God says, so in a lot of ways, money becomes you have to choose. Our whole lives revolve around, are you going to pursue things in this world, a retirement fund? Are you going to pursue that which is going to fade away? But God says, you cannot serve both God and money. You have to choose. Are you going to pursue those things and make that your priority, or are you going to pursue things in this world, a retirement fund? Are you going to pursue that which is going to fade away? Serve for sure, it will fade away. Are you going to pursue those things and make that your priority, or are you going to pursue heavenly things that do not fade away? But that's what Jesus says. Are you going to choose? And so, money is a problem for different reasons. For some of us, it's because we're selfish. It's a really challenging concept, isn't it? Some of us, we just like to spend money on stuff. That's what Jesus says. And so money is a problem serve ourselves, for different reasons. For some of us, it's entertain ourselves, live the life that we want to live. Some of us, we just like to spend money on stuff. For some of us, money is a problem in a different way. For some of us, money becomes a problem entertain ourselves, live the life that we want to live. We have any worriers in this room? Are guilty of this? Probably. For some of us, money is a problem. We let money become our master because a problem because it's a source of worry. It enslaves us because we're constantly probably just panicking over. Some of us, how am I going to? We let money become our master because if something bad happens, I got to have this. What if this slaves us because we're constantly. Some of us are. We have made money our master because panicking over. How am I going to make ends meet? I got to save up some extra money. Our emotion, because if something bad happens, I got to have this. What if this happens? What if that happens? Some of us are. We have made money our master. Happiness, right? When you worry, you're not happy. And so money can become your master in that way as well. But Jesus says this also in Matthew chapter 6. He's talking about worrying, just happiness, and he's talking about worry, having your needs met. And so money instead of worrying about But Jesus says this also in Matthew how you're going to get by tomorrow. He's talking about all that stuff. Instead of worrying about that, he's talking about having your needs met. Seek first. And he says, His kingdom, instead of worrying about, all these things, how you're going to get by tomorrow or all that stuff. Instead of worrying about that, he says, instead, seek first becoming a righteous kingdom and His righteousness, loving, selfless, all these things will be given to you. A person with integrity. If you seek that first, heavenly things. If you seek, then all of the things becoming a righteous person, going to be taken care of. Becoming a loving, selfless. Right, person so with integrity. It doesn't do you any good to worry. That first. I heard someone say worrying is like the worst thing you can do because it's like suffering twice. They're going to be taken care of anyway. Right? You suffer when you worry, and then if the bad things happen, you still have to suffer anyway. It doesn't do you any good. There's no point in suffering twice. I heard Jesus says, worrying, instead seek first His kingdom. So when we can learn to let go of those worries, when you worry, and then if the bad things happen, you still have to suffer anyway. When we can learn to no point in suffering twice. God Jesus says, instead seek first His kingdom. So other things, when we can learn to let go of those worries, when we can learn to have a change, they're going to be met anyway. When we can learn to, this is kind of that paradox that Jesus talks about a lot. He says, above all other things, we will save your life. You actually have to lose are going to be met anyway. That's kind of the idea here. That anyway, we want to hold on to our paradox that Jesus talks about a lot. He says to worry about ourselves. To save your life, you actually have to. But Jesus says, actually, if you stop worrying about yourself, that's kind of the idea here that we want to hold on to our money anyway. If you worry about me. To worry about ourselves. If you worry about serving others more than you worry about actually, if you stop worrying about yourself, stop worrying about your money, are met even better. You're going to find you're better off anyway. If you worry about, so it's that interesting. If you worry about paradox that Jesus creates, if you worry about serving others more than you worry about serving yourself, you're going to find another thing we see. The third thing we see that the Bible tells us about how we can view our money. Interesting at its most basic paradox that Jesus creates. That there is a faith aspect to this. Another thing we see, the third thing we see, we have that the Bible tells us about how we can view our money at its most basic level, is that there is a faith aspect, right? It is tough. That if we're going to start looking at money the right way, it's really easy to say things like, "Well, you got to put God first," right? Again, stop that worrying. It's really easy to say that stuff. Right? It is tough. But how do we actually do it? How do we actually really let that happen in our lives and in our hearts? How can I really trust? You got to stop that worrying. That if I really... It's really easy to say that stuff, right? Let God take control. How do we actually do it? How do we actually let that happen in our lives and in our hearts? How can I really give away? That if I really let God take control of my finances, will be met. That I will actually be okay. It doesn't seem to make sense on how can I really trust? How can I trust? If I give away, that's actually what's going to happen. It's hard to do, isn't it? It's hard to do, and this is why the Bible talks so much about faith. Right? Money doesn't seem to make sense on the surface. So how can I trust as anything else? That's actually what's going to happen. Refuse to give our money over to God. The Bible, it's hard to do, and this is why the Bible talks so much about a lack of faith. Money is trust faith. Issue. The Lord can do as much as anything else. With 90% of my money, refuse to give our money over to God. With 100% of the Bible, basically shows it's a lack of faith, is what it is. A lack of faith. The Bible says this in Hebrews 11. It says, "Without faith, it is impossible with 90% of my money God." Then I can because anyone who comes to Him must believe that He exists. It's a lack of faith, and that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. This in Hebrews 11. It says. Without faith, it is impossible kind of step out in faith and just trust that if I earnestly must believe that He exists and that really, really try this out, who earnestly seek Him.
He's going to reward me.
So it says we have to kind of step out in faith and just trust. And there's a lot of churches out there right now that will tell you that if I really try this out, become rich.
He's going to reward me.
That this reward that the Bible talks about, that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him. And there's a lot of churches out there right now, unfortunately, that tell you that, hey, the more money you give to the church, the richer you're going to become. And if you're not rich, this reward that the Bible talks about, that He rewards those who earnestly seek Him.
Doesn't say that.
There's a lot of churches, unfortunately, that tell you that, hey, the more money you give to the church, the richer you're going to become. And if you're not rich, in other ways, you don't have enough faith.
But not financially.
And unfortunately, the Bible just doesn't
Jesus' disciples,
say that. Jesus never promises.
He tells them, actually, a lot of times you're not even going to have a place to lay your head.
He promises
you're not going to have a place to sleep.
If you follow ways. He never promises that we will be rich financially.
Jesus' disciples,
but He does promise that we will be rich in other ways.
He tells them, actually, a lot of times you're not even going to have a place to lay your head.
Those who seek Him
to sleep
earnestly will be rewarded. He never promises that we will be rich financially. But He does promise that we will be rich in other ways.
You are more content. You are more
those who seek Him,
right?
Earnestly,
you'll find that when you start to serve other people
in different ways,
instead of serving yourselves,
it does this.
You will find you're rewarded because you are more content. You are more fulfilled
with life,
right?
Because you realize
you'll find that when you start to serve other people,
life isn't all about
instead
me,
of serving yourselves,
right?
It does this weird.
That's
thing
one of the
rewards.
Another reward is that worry that we talked about. When you can really learn to let go,
you realize you've broken out of that shell
of the control of the money, and you realize, hey, guess what? I still have food to eat. That's one of the rewards. Another reward is that worry that we talked about. When you can really learn to let go,
you're more at peace
in your life. The control of the money, and you realize,
you've given God control.
I still have food to eat.
And then, of course, there are eternal rewards.
Worry goes away.
Right? Jesus said
that
again,
is one of those rewards
as well. You're rewarded.
Save up for things, pursue things that do not fade away. And what He's talking about there is these eternal.
And then, of course, there are eternal rewards.
When we give our lives,
Jesus said again in Matthew 6.
Save up for things, pursue things that do not fade away. And what He's talking about there is these eternal rewards. When we give our lives to the Lord fully, there are many, many rewards.
We believe that we will be with Him.
It may not be the kind
that you were thinking of right now,
with Him in eternity,
but there's going to be a lot.
And so, guys, we have to,
once we get there,
we have to
there
start
are many,
looking
many
at
rewards
money differently. We have to change.
It may not be the
heart
kind that
when it comes
you
to
were
money.
thinking of right now.
We have to put God in first place.
And so, guys, we have to
with our money.
And we have to step out.
We have to start looking at money differently.
You know
we have to change our heart when it comes to money. We have to put God in first place.
He's going to take care
with our money, and we have to step out in faith and trust.
And you guys can come on up. That you know what, it really will be okay if I let go.
And so,
of this
again, guys, our culture, unfortunately, just
step out in faith and trust.
Band, you guys can come on.
It doesn't take these things to heart, does it? Most people in your life.
And so, again, guys,
the way that they see their money is
unfortunately,
money is a way
for me to take care of myself.
It doesn't take these things to heart,
does
a way
it?
For me to take
Most
care of myself,
people in your life.
The Bible challenges us to think differently. That money,
the way that they see their money
is another way.
Money is a way for me to
take
care of myself.
That's its primary purpose.
Money is a way for
God
me to take care of
sometimes
myself,
uses money as a
the Bible
test
challenges
for
us to think differently.
That
money actually is another way.
How much
do
you
really believe that I
will
take care of you if you can give this over?
That's
to
its
me?
primary purpose.
And so, money we have to start looking at money as a
test
for us to
say,
increase our faith, to increase. How much do you really believe that I will take care of you if you can give this over to me?
Instead of
and so money, we have to start looking at money as a way for us to increase our faith, to increase. So, guys, we're going to get into more specifics with this series, talking about things like, again, not racking up unnecessary amounts of credit card debt,
and to serve ourselves.
We're going to be talking about using our money to help others. We're going to get into more specifics with this series, talking about things like, again, not racking money up unnecessary amounts of credit card debt,
giving back to the Lord. We're going to be talking about all those things,
but using our money to help others.
What I want to remind you of before
I finish here today is that
use your money in wise ways, in that way, giving back
to
the Lord.
It just occurred to me when I was thinking about this week that it's amazing how
what I want to remind you of before
God
I finish
makes all these promises to us that He's going to take care of our daily needs.
It just
amazing
how
when I was thinking about this
Jesus
week,
says,
it's
amazing how
look at the flowers
God
in the field.
makes all these promises to us.
Look how I take care of
to
them.
take care of our
Imagine imagine
right?
How much
amazing
more
how
I love
Jesus says,
take
hey,
care of
you know what?
Look at
If I take care of the birds
in the sky and the flowers in
look
the field.
how I take care of
them.
Imagine
take care of you
how much
if you
more
follow me
I love and
me
take care of you.
and love me. And
if
just
I
this
take care of
idea
the
just really,
birds
for some
in
reason,
the sky
settled into
and
my
the
heart
flowers
this
in the
week that-
field, how much more?
It's just
Am I
we
going to
are
take
just
care of
so
you if you
fortunate
follow me
that we have a God
pursue
who
me
is so good
and
to
love
us,
me?
don't we? And just this idea, just
Not
really,
only does
for
he
some
take
reason,
care of our
settled into my
daily
heart
needs,
this week that
He does
it's
so
just-
much
we are
more for
just
us, right?
so
He offers us
fortunate
forgiveness
that we have
of
a God
all the
who is
wrongs
so
we've
good
ever
to
done,
us.
don't we?
It's like
It's not enough
only
for him
does
to
he
just
take care of our
daily
daily He has
needs.
to go above and beyond. He says, you know what?
He
I'm
does
gonna-
so
I'm gonna go
much
the
more
extra
for us,
mile.
right? He offers us
I'm gonna
forgiveness
forgive you
of all the wrongs
you've
we've
ever done.
You don't deserve.
It's like to have a relationship.
It's
with
not
me
enough for
anymore
him to
because of
just
your
take
sin,
care of us.
but
He
I
has
love
to
you,
go
so I'm gonna
above
bring
and
you
beyond.
back.
He says, you know
into
what?
a relationship
I'm going to
with
go the
me.
extra mile.
I love you so
I'm gonna
much.
forgive you
I'm
of
gonna,
all the wrongs
I'm going
you've
to take
ever
care
done.
of you.
You don't
I'm gonna
deserve
provide for you
to have a relationship with me
and
anymore because of your sin.
I'm going to bring you
But
back
I love
into
you,
a
so I'm gonna
relationship
bring
with
you
me. I'm going to
back
allow you
into
to
a
live
relationship
with
with
me.
I
in
love you
eternity.
so
I'm gonna allow
much.
you to be
I'm
in
gonna-
my presence.
I'm going to take care of you.
I'm going to provide for
God
you.
does a lot of good things for us,
and
guys.
I'm going to bring you
We
back
serve a
into
God
a relationship with me, and I'm going to allow
who
you to
loves
live with me
us more
in
than we can
eternity.
really
I'm going to allow you to
imagine. He has
be
done
in my
more for
presence.
you.
He did more for you before you were
God
even
does a
born
lot of good things for us, guys.
than you can ever really
We
comprehend.
serve a God who
So
loves
today we just want to
us
challenge you.
more
If you
than we
have
can
something
really
in your
imagine.
life
He
that's
has
going
done more
on,
for you,
He did more
financially
for you before you were even born,
that
you need prayer for.
than you can
if
ever
you're
really
if you're one of those
comprehend.
people that's having trouble letting go of
And so
worry,
today we just want to challenge you. If you
we
have
wanna pray
something
with
in your
you.
life that's
If,
going on,
if you're the kind of person that has trouble
financially,
in your heart
that you
wanting
need prayer
to spend
for,
your money
if you're
on
one of
yourself,
those people that's having trouble
and
letting go
just
of
please
worry,
yourself and live the life that you want to live
we
instead
wanna
of
pray with
using
you.
it to benefit
If,
God's kingdom.
if you're the kind of
we wanna pray
person
with you
that
about
has
that.
trouble in your
if you
heart,
have never
wanting
given
to
your life to
spend your
Christ,
money
if you've never
on yourself
experienced the love
and
that
just
God gives
please
to
yourself
us
and live the life
on a
that you
daily
want to live,
basis, instead of
we
using
would
it to
obviously
benefit
love to
God's
pray with you
kingdom,
about that as
we wanna
well.
pray with you about
So
that.
anything you guys
if you have
need,
never
we're gonna
given your
sing
life
this
to
next
Christ, if
song.
you've
We're gonna
never
have folks in the back
experienced
of the
the
room.
love
We
that
really
God
encourage you to
gives
come
to
talk and
us
pray with us.
on a daily
Let me pray.
basis, we would obviously love to pray with you about that as well. So anything you guys need, we're going to sing this next song. We're going to have folks in the back of the room. We really encourage you to come talk and pray with us. Let me pray.